But the RCMP, this is a big story that has not yet come out. And we need CBC to become transparent on what they did to these retired RCMP officers at their studio on March 25th and March 26th.
Imagine, if you will, Canada, that you've spent a good portion of your life in school. You've earned your bachelor's, your master's, and your PhD, and you're a well-published professor. And then years later, as a result of some of the research and views that you have, you are propositioned to come into a docu-series where someone has complimented you on your work and positions you as to having a safe space to talk about some of the research that you've actually done, only to then find out that the whole reason that they brought you in was to brand you a racist. This is what happened recently to just one of a series of individuals in Canada, and this has happened as a result of an initiative to put forward a alleged satire and comedy show that's funded by our state-sponsored broadcaster, CBC. Joining us to talk about her experience on this today is Dr. Frances Woodison. Dr. Woodison, thanks for joining us today on Northern Perspective.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, so we did a bit of an overview video earlier today. We showed part of your video that you actually were able to live stream. Good thing that you were able to capture that. And for those of you that are interested, Frances, that's how she has asked me to address her. You can take a look at her full half-hour overview on this. I encourage you to take a look at that on her channel. She goes through all of the documents and in her experience in detail on what happened. But for the purposes of our discussion today, Frances, just give us a summary. What were you just minding your own business and until you received this email from Pam Gibson, if that's even her real name, to invite you on to this docuseries?
Yeah, I was doing my usual, challenging of various sacred cows, I guess. But it's not, Pam Gibson is not her name. Her name is Molly Gore. She's an American. She's an activist from the United States, involved with Vamos, Igor Vamos. So they're together. And then there's a UK person whose name is Amy Mercer. So there's a lot of international elements. Anyway, yeah, so I received this email, and I think it was March 23rd, 2026, telling me all the right things, the things I'm interested in. That's what they wanted to hear about. So I guess I got flattered. And so yeah, I'm not really looking for this kind of setup. So it wouldn't really have mattered what they had said. I would have thought, oh, that's interesting. Go to Vancouver, which is, I like going there, and I can spend a night at a hotel, and it's a free trip to Vancouver, and I'm gonna get paid an honorarium. And anyway. So I got there, and then it was a weird setup. It had odd things like the Johnny McDonald character and the woman, Hebert, last name Hebert, Dakota, dressed up in a blonde wig and being really ditzy. And so and the questions were all softball kind of stuff. And then about half an hour into it, two Aboriginal men walked in and dumped a pile of shoes, children's shoes, on the coffee table in front of me. And at that point, I thought they just sabotaged the interview. But when the interviewer, Hebert, was glaring at me with hatred, I kind of knew she was in on the whole thing. And that's when I was trying to get my phone, because I didn't have my phone with me. It was in my bag. So I told them, I need to take my medications in my bag. Can you please bring me my bag? And so then they brought me my bag, and that's when I was able to whip out my phone and start interrogating them. Or actually, I wish I'd done more, because I could have gone around and tried to get the rest of them on camera. But I guess it's pretty good to have gotten Igor there to get him to explain his situation.
So just so everybody understands, this show is set up. If anyone has ever seen that old prank show Punked, where Ashton Kutcher used to run that,
Okay.
the show seems to be trying to follow that sort of format where they set somebody up, they pull them in, they go through their charade of making them comfortable and trying to expose them to do or say something that they want them to say. And then there's this gotcha moment. And if it's a true prank show, everyone kind of laughs and says, oh, ha, 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 you know, he got me and I understand it. The trouble with this is that you didn't even understand what was going on. And in order for this kind of setup to be effective, the person that is being pranked, they're kind of supposed to get it, like when that gotcha moment happens. But you were just confused. You didn't know what was going on, did you?
I still don't know. I don't understand the point of this. I don't understand what is funny about this. Maybe when I see the final product, I'll understand. But I still don't. I don't understand what's funny. And I'm not opposed to pranking. I do see it as having its role to play. But you're going after powerful people and you're trying to show their hypocrisy in some kind of shape or form. That's kind of what it's about. And everyone should, if you're powerful and you're a hypocrite, well, it's a good thing to expose that. So I understand that kind of situation, but I'm still a little bit bewildered, except to paint me as a race. It's not funny. It's just you're a racist, and we're trying to point you as a racist. Like that's going to be the point, I think, of the whole thing.
Well, and that's not overreaction. That's not hyperbole. And this is where it is so vital that you had your phone with you, because we're going to show a clip of it now.
This seems to be a setup of some outfit that's doing a reality television show that wants to paint me, I guess, as some kind of a racist or something that they're going to post on social media. What's your name, sir?
Mike Smith.
Mike Smith?
Yeah, I think you got it exactly right.
This was actually when you challenged the host, and you just said, like, "Who are you? Like, what is the point of this?" You said, "This seems to be just to set me up and brand me as a racist, as an evil person." And I was shocked, beyond shocked, when Igor, posing as Mike Smith, said, No, you have it right. So, this has been orchestrated against some veterans of the RCMP, against Lindsay Shepherd, against others. And Lindsay Shepherd was able to find that this was a registered, production company, and this was funded in part by the CBC. But it's supposedly a prank comedy show. When I heard the host agree with you, saying, yeah, the whole point is to essentially humiliate you and brand you as a racist, that doesn't sound like comedy to me. Does it to you?
No, and I don't know what, except for the John A. MacDonald, the guy in the John A. MacDonald costume. You can sort of see there might be some humor that comes in from that somehow. It's kind of funny to see people dressed up in that way a little bit. And I guess he's going to be nodding along with me having some cuts that are made about me saying racist things, or they're going to use AI to have me say racist things. I think that will be appreciated by a certain segment of the Aboriginal population, and maybe they will even find it funny.
Well, I guess that will be the proof in the pudding based on the audience reviews and the feedback that they get. But when you have this type of production being supported by a taxpayer-funded corporation like the CBC, which is given money from the federal government, which right now is the Liberal government that is in charge, and given the Liberals' alleged commitment to reconciliation between the Aboriginal peoples in Canada, as well as the, call it us settlers that have come in, after the fact. Do you think this type of production works towards that goal of reconciliation, or do you think this works against that goal?
Well, it depends, I guess, on how you define reconciliation. So, if we're talking about increasing cooperation between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people, trying to figure out, the wrongs that have occurred so that we can correct them and move together towards a better future, all these kinds of things. And obviously this is going to just create, first of all, there's outrage, there's unbelievable outrage already about it, and people don't, they haven't even seen what kind of horrendous thing is going to be produced, which I can only imagine. But if reconciliation is about us, I think it's Tim Thielman, puts it, transferring money and power, and just like an idea that the neo-tribal elites, who are the leaders, the Aboriginal leaders, in association with their non-Aboriginal lawyers and consultants, who are trying to divert money away from Indigenous communities, then this might assist in that goal. So I think that I'm kind of grateful a bit, I guess, for this happening. Well, I'm grateful on a number of levels, but I'm grateful because finally people are waking up that this is just totally unacceptable what is going on here, and we've been manipulated for so long into thinking that doing these kinds of things is assisting the Aboriginal population, the marginalized members of the Aboriginal population, when it doesn't. It makes things much worse for them. Like this is, it's not beneficial for Aboriginal people. It's not beneficial for non-Aboriginal people. It's beneficial for a very, very small, privileged leadership, and even maybe it's not even beneficial for them, but it's certainly beneficial for the lawyers who are making a killing off of all these grievances. Like this is really where we're at now, and we need to, address this head on, what's going on here.
And on that vein, what do you think about just the whole benefit chain of this? So the Canadian taxpayer, we get taxed, virtually half of all of our money that goes up to the federal government. And then that money gets passed down to the CBC. That money then goes into this initiative. And then that money, which supposedly is going to help Aboriginal peoples, then gets passed to an American production company.
Yeah.
So that money doesn't even stay in Canada anymore. And now we're relying on Americans to come up and essentially produce a Canadian television show. Like what? It seems like we're in the twilight zone here with who is supposed to actually benefit from this.
Yeah, I'm like, I understand sometimes you want to get the best talent that you can. And from what I have been told, Igor Valmos is like the top of the game for this. I've never, to be honest with you, I didn't never heard of this guy before. I don't know, when was that? Like, how long has this been going on now?
I think their last production was 2014. So
I heard they did some stuff of Occupy Wall Street, but the RCMP, this is a big story that has not yet come out, and we need CBC to become transparent on what they did to these retired RCMP officers at their studio on March 25th and March 26th. We need to see that.
So for our viewers that don't know, give us a summary on what happened there.
Okay, so I've talked to this RCMP officer. He's retired. He's retired. So he gets approached by this. Actually, they used another fake company called Nova Productions, something like that. I can't remember. But it's not Forge. It's something else. So it's a whole new setup. He's minding his own business, and he gets this call about and they're saying it was going to be BBC in the UK doing it. So I don't know if that's a lie or true or whatever. They wanted to talk to RCMP officers who were retired and how they were coping with retirement. That was the premise. So this guy they came over to his house, they interviewed him. He was a bit unhappy with the interview and said some things that he wished he hadn't said. Whereas I have not said anything I wish I didn't say. Like, I'm a seasoned person in this regard, so I'm not going to be saying anything that I don't want to say. But he's not. He's like an innocent. Anyway, so they get him to go to Vancouver for 3 days. Some of it's so bad I don't even want to repeat it. But anyway, they get him and 2 other RCMP officers, retired guys. They take them into the CBC studio in Vancouver. They're under the impression that they're going to be involved in some kind of interview, but what the setup is that they're putting them in front of a studio, like a supposed studio audience. So they're brought out onto the stage with the bright lights and the studio audience. So these poor guys are on this stage, and now they got these 2 Aboriginal people, which I assume is the same guys, Gitz, Crazy Boy, and Ryan Moccasin. I don't know if it was, but I assume it's the same 2 guys, Aboriginal guys. And they're dressed in their regalia, and they're castigating the RCMP. They're saying the RCMP is terrible and all the things it's done, and the RCMP officers are kind of sitting there, but they don't know what to do because they think they're part of some studio. And then they've got a screen where they have King Charles making a speech, presumably AI generated, it has to be, but they can't really see him very well, and he's saying that they're going to dissolve the RCMP. King Charles is saying this. And all the RCMP, what? Could you hear that? They're going to be dissolving the RCMP, and then they bring out quote-unquote Prince William to seal the deal, and it's not Prince William. It doesn't look like Prince William, but they're they're told it's Prince William. They have no reason to think why it wouldn't be, so they're, and then finally, then there's this attempt to shake their hands about the dissolution of the RCMP, and at that point, this retired RCMP officer is just, he's incensed, and he just gets off and he just storms out of the room and says, I'm not participating in this. I have problems with the bosses of the RCMP, but I don't have any problem with the institution of the RCMP. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff that continues to go on with them following him around with the cameras, and he was just humiliated and harassed and all sorts of terrible things, according to him. I just have his account, but CBC needs to tell us what they did there. That's an outrage. If that is the case.
So this was at a CBC studio in Vancouver?
Yes.
I find that fascinating, Francis. And the reason why I find this fascinating is because back in November and October, we had the leader of the official opposition on our show here in Northern Perspective. And he had, we'd asked him a question about accountability and if his government was in power, and he found that his caucus was committing corruption to the level of some of the Trudeau scandals that had occurred in the last government, what he would do. And he said, well, I would fire them if it was true, and I would refer the matter to the police and the RCMP. And he had stated that the RCMP should have investigated some of the allegations that were levied against Justin Trudeau. And we had, after that, we had looked into, what he was referring to, and it was SNC-Lavalin, it was the Aga Khan scandal. But the mainstream media and the Liberal Party, it was months on end that they were saying, how could the leader of the official opposition disrespect the RCMP like this? How can he have such low esteem of the RCMP as an institution? That's a proud institution. We should be celebrating it. We should be protecting it, and we should be defending it. And they did this for months, and it still comes up in the House of Commons right now. So I find that very interesting, because now you have a Liberal-funded, state-funded show, and they're bringing our retired serving members of the RCMP onto a studio or in front of a studio audience and disparaging the RCMP in front of their eyes. I find that very ironic, don't you?
I do. And again, I interviewed this guy a number of times, and we need confirmation. I should, all I have is his, and he seems like a very trustworthy guy to me. I don't know why you would be telling me this. First of all, the story is so crazy. It's got to be true. Like
it's stranger than fiction. Yeah.
Like the King Charles who would have thought of that? Bringing up a Prince William who doesn't look like Prince William, and everyone's too like, that's not Prince William, and that's obviously not Prince. Like everyone's just, what's going on here? So it boggles the mind. I find a hard time anyway. So I'm listening to him telling me all this, and I'm having a hard time believing it. It seems so odd. It's not even on the level, like, why King Charles dissolving the RCMP?
When he doesn't even have the authority to do so.
He doesn't, he's the king. Like, he's not meddling in RCMP dissolution or whatever.
Well, but if I think about how, you're describing that he described it, sounds similar to your setup where they had people dressed up as people that they weren't, and paid actors and things like that. So there's actually a lot of structural similarities in what you're saying he experienced, in addition to what
but with Sir Johnny MacDonald, I wasn't thinking that was Johnny MacDonald. I was told ahead of time there's going to be an actor there. He's going to kind of give the side of the story of an actor, like a theatrical thing where it's difficult to portray John. I thought he was going to be giving us his actor view of the difficulties of playing Johnny MacDonald, or I didn't really know. I was just sort of going, that's a bit odd. I thought, well, often, I just was open to it. I thought that'd be interesting. I didn't know really how that was all going to pan out, but that's not what it was. It was a guy pretending to be Johnny MacDonald who was going to obviously be cut in to show how everyone hates John MacDonald. He's like Hitler. And here she is sitting down with a Hitler-like figure, and he's agreeing with everything that she's saying. So she's obviously Hitler by association or something. Like this kind of logic. But I have a hard time. I'm almost finding this to be hilarious because of the stupidity of it. It's not funny. It's stupid. It just seems to be a completely amateurish, which is kind of, I don't know why Igor Vamos is, since he's the top-notch pranker and so on, why you wouldn't get a higher quality script that you would be using for the pranking, because this is not a high-quality script. And to be honest with you, it reminds me a little bit of the CBC's kind of stupid programs that they do where, like the Great British Baking Show, where they have a really funny, great program that has a lot of charm to it with the Brits and all their baking and everything like that. So what do? CBC? They create the Great Canadian Baking Show. So it's the same format, the same thing. It's exactly the same, except it's just lame because it has none of the charm and it's just horrible. So this is going to be kind of the Yes Men, but really lame, really, really lame.
The not really men. So. Well, it would, you have to laugh, otherwise you cry, right? And this is where we're at.
Like, I shouldn't be laughing because this is the destruction of civilization as we know it, using the misery of Aboriginal people as a lever, and destroying the CBC. And I know that there's a number of people who just can't stand the idea of a publicly funded broadcaster at all. But that kind of disregards the great storied history of the CBC.
Well, and it all comes back to, when it comes to this specific situation, it doesn't matter whether you're pro-liberal, pro-conservative, pro-NDP. when we're in a situation where a state-funded broadcaster is funding a show with the whole intent, admitted by the host, of branding political opponents as racists and humiliating them and attacking them for the whole purpose of partisan gain, that should send a chill down all Canadian spines, no matter who they are.